Hi, so welcome to another episode of History Hunters. I am here in Sacramento, California at what was Farrell's ice cream parlor. September 24th, 1972, there was a birthday party going on right in this location right here. Sacramento Executive Airport is over that way. A jet had just taken off, didn't get enough lift. It slammed into the building that was behind me. Now this is a new building. I'll tell you all about this tragedy on this episode of History Hunters. So it was a festive party that was taking place inside of this ice cream parlor right over here. Far off there is the runway, and this vintage jet comes careening right through Freeport Avenue. Right across here, it took a car out, pushed the car in the direction of this center right here.
It was a jet plane, and it started taking off, and it's picking up its speed, and it went up maybe 10 feet in the air, and then it kind of cut down. There wasn't enough room to take off.
Could you see it bounce across Freeport here?
When it hit down, it made a bunch of dust. You know, it hit the dirt first, then it started coming, then all of a sudden a big explosion, like a big flame in the air, and you know, all that. Then I looked through my binoculars and I could tell it was hit the building here.
And everything just exploded inside. Like I said, this is not the original building. This has been rebuilt, but this is the exact location where Farrell's ice cream parlor was located. And this is about the time of day that all the rescue efforts were taking place. And fortunately, we have a lot of news photos from that day I can show you. This is just a very, very tragic incident. This is now a Sacramento Police Department building. Now, some of the added tragedy was that there was a set of grandparents who thought that their family were in the ice cream parlor at the time, and as they were parked across the street, they ran across this busy road here, and I believe they were both struck. I believe the grandmother was killed. She was the 23rd person killed. But yeah, a long time ago, that jet slid right through this entrance to the shopping center, striking the ice cream parlor over here.
A primary concern now to the investigators is what caused the Sabre jet to go out of control and crash.
Now, the National Transportation Safety Board concluded that the accident was a result of pilot error due to his lack of experience flying the jet. The pilot, Bingham, had logged fewer than 4 hours flying time in the Sabre. The FAA later modified the rules governing the flight of ex-military jets over densely populated areas and mandated clearance for such flights. I remember this incident when I was a kid. I believe I was about 11 years old, and just couldn't believe that this was happening in Sacramento, a town that we had been to a number of times, just thinking about some really festive event, and then tragedy struck here. It's just a horrible event for anybody. When I did my research on this crash, I also heard that there would have been many more lives claimed inside the building had the external fuel tanks not ruptured prior to crash. As you can see, there's probably a little mound there at the end of the runway. The plane hit that, jumped up over the road, slid right across the road into a car, pushed cars. There were at least 2 vehicles here that were just totally demolished right on this spot right here, right in this entrance to the shopping center. It was a shopping center, and now I understand it's like a civic center.
Did it explode before it hit or when it hit the building?
When it hit the building. It exploded before it exploded over here, and then it went all the way through the building.
There's also just mass pandemonium out here, as you can imagine. A big fireball erupts here. A lot of people had known what this place was. They came down here to see what was going on. Of course, there was a lot of firefighters and medical personnel trying to attend to the victims. And I'm sure it left scars on them the rest of their lives. And I understand that later the firefighters who were involved in taking care of the burn victims here were instrumental in establishing a burn unit here in Sacramento. So just to recap, there were a total of 22 people who died inside the building, including 12 children. There was an 8-year-old survivor who lost 9 family members. They were his parents, 2 brothers, a sister, 2 grandparents, and 2 cousins. There was also a family of 4 who also died in the crash. This building has been completely replaced from Farrell's ice cream parlor. It's now a city police department. This is approximately the time of day when the tragedy took place. And right here we have a plaque that's dedicated to all the children who passed away here and the adults. There were 23 people who were killed. It says at this site on September 24th, 1972, a vintage Korean War jet attempting to take off from Sacramento's executive airport crashed into a crowded Farrell's ice cream parlor, killing 12 children and 11 adults, as well as injuring many others. At that time, this tragedy was the worst air-ground disaster in our country's history. This memorial is dedicated to all of the victims. Right over here looks like it's engraved with names. So for this next segment, I came to the Mountain View Cemetery in Sonora, California, where one of the victims of the Farrell's ice cream parlor crash is buried next to her twin sister, who was also at the ice cream parlor on that fateful day. One sister made it, the other didn't. Now what you do is come down here a little ways, and there's a nice fresh marker for the twin sisters. It's engraved with the saying, "Love, sweet love forever." And it looks like some poppies there in the middle. And the grave of Christy Dawn Francis. She was born January 14th, 1969, and she died in that crash on September 24th, 1972. Now, her twin sister, Carrie Jane Francis, lived to be the age of 50. She had just turned 50, and 3 days later, she passed away in 2018. I'm sure she was haunted throughout her life by the fact that her twin sister had perished and she didn't. She tried to get the establishment of a memorial there at the crash site, which we showed you a little bit earlier. I think most people would agree with me that the worst fate that a parent could go through, the worst nightmare that you could go through, is losing a child, but losing a child through some tragic circumstances, such as little Christy here did. But I'm sure that they're pretty overjoyed in the fact that their daughter, Carrie, survived and lived to the age of 50. It's nice to see them here together once again. The twins were at Farrell's that afternoon because their babysitter, 12-year-old Christy Kine of Stockton, and her family had asked if the girls could go with them on an outing. Roger and Kathy Francis said yes, the girls could go. When the plane crashed into the building, Christy grabbed Carrie and pulled her out of the inferno.
Just sitting there, and I thought it was just some gimmick because things came from behind us and just fell on us, and all the tables went on everybody. Some stuff started coming out of the wall. Everybody just ran out. I just grabbed a baby because there were 9 of us, 2 twins, 3 years old, and I grabbed one of them, just got out of there. I don't know where the other one is.
Carrie suffered a broken femur and survived, but Christy didn't make it.
Can't find my mother.
Joan Backey, the mother of the babysitter that day, also died in the disaster. Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor, which sponsored the 2-day Golden West Sports Aviation Air Show, never reopened. The ice cream parlor and sandwich shop was founded in Portland, Oregon in 1963. The chain became well known for their offer of a free ice cream sundae to children on their birthday. The Parlors had an early 1900s theme, with employees wearing period vests and straw boaters hats, and each location featured a player piano. At its peak in the 1970s, Frell's had 4 Sacramento locations that featured a fun and energetic atmosphere as servers in 1890s costume danced, sang, and entertained while serving huge portions of ice cream treats. However, by 1990, all 4 Sacramento locations had closed their doors. The last restaurant closed in Brea, California in 2019. The Sacramento crash wasn't the only one involving Frell's ice cream parlor and an airplane. On April 9, 1982, a small private plane crashed into the road in front of the Farrell's location at Torrance, California, and burst into flames. The plane missed the building, but the pilot and his 2 passengers perished. The founder of the chain was Robert Bob Farrell, who died in 2015 in Vancouver, Washington. Ironically, William Penn Patrick, who was owner of the Sabre and a successful entrepreneur, was killed less than a year later in the crash of his P-51 Mustang near his ranch in Clear Lake Oaks, 80 miles north of San Francisco. So I want to thank you for joining us on this very sobering look back at a very tragic incident here in Sacramento. It's not something nobody ever wants to see happen in their town. Unfortunately, it happened here. I just hope that their last final moments were just spent in utter enjoyment. Little did they know that their lives would be ending coming to an ice cream parlor and a birthday party inside.